Seeing none, moving on to adopting of the minutes. Can I get a mover for the minutes of the regular meeting? Okay, I saw Councillor Crawford before I got that finished there. Regular meeting from December 9th. Are there any comments or questions regarding? Seeing none, can I call for a vote? And that passes. Moving on to the consent agenda, members have separated items 4.1 and 4.4 for discussion. Can I get a mover for the remainder of the consent agenda? Councillor Bauer. Any comments or questions? No? Calling a vote, please. And for those at home, I'm looking up at the screen because we're having some technical problems with the screen in front of me. Is that? Has that passed?
To you, Madam Chair, we have 2 votes. We're just waiting for the remainder of council.
Remainder of council, if we can get all the votes in, please. Oh, it's you again. And we're in. All right, that passes. Thank goodness, I was getting a stiff neck there. Okay. So, the first item pulled on the consent agenda is 4.1, and that's pulled by me. There we go. So, we will start with some, is there any other questions from anybody else before I start with my questions? Just want to give everyone an opportunity. No questions. Excellent. Okay, so my questions with regards to 4.1. Who should I be directing this at? Director Meredith? Yes? Okay, so I wanted to ask, after reading the RFQ and reading the summary work, it clearly stated the demolition of the existing mechanical, plumbing, electrical services to the suite, new layout, installation of non-load-bearing steel studs, frames, so on. It mentions basically everything that went into overage. Well, a lot of things that went into overage. And I realized that there were some things that couldn't be seen in walls, asbestos and whatnot. But I'm wondering what could have be done to have prevented the overage that we incurred on this project, if at all anything.
To the chair, with respect to the contract documents, they form the basis upon which the bids are received and the pricing is in effect. It's not just the document on its own. You also have to look at the specifications, the drawings. It's a lot more complex than just the section that you referenced in the document itself. There is a process that we go through where there are at times requests for information. There are proposed changes when you're dealing with an existing building and you open up the walls that may warrant change orders. They go through a detailed process, both the contract administrator, in this case AECOM, the town's project manager, and the consultants. They review every change order. They go through a cost analysis to ensure that the costs are reasonable and they're approved on that basis. For a project that is a retrofit or a renovation, similar, and I can refer to sort of the town of Ajax retrofit a number of years ago, it's not uncommon to find an increased number of change orders that you could not foresee until construction begins, which is the case that happened with respect to many of the change orders on this project. There's also other references within this document regarding lead times on certain pieces of equipment that extended the contract life as well in terms of completing the project. So it's something that sort of evolves through the construction process, but it is looked at with a number of eyes before the approvals are given for the additional costs by the general contractor.
And did any of the companies that submit bid, did they mention potential overages due to the age of the building or the equipment? Like I'm imagining that there was a process where they had a ability to examine the building after they saw the scope of work that went out on the bidding system. I imagine they had the opportunity to then examine the building itself. Did any one of them happen to mention there could be overages due to unforeseen?
With respect to overages, there are pretty much overages on every we can anticipate overages on every project, which is why we have generally a 15 to 20% contingency. This is not new, this is not unexpected, it's a matter of degree in terms of the dollar value of extras that are incurred with respect to a specific project. So there may or may not have been a mandatory site meeting. That's not always the case. It's not necessary that all bidders would attend the site. I'd have to go back and double check the bid document to see whether it was a mandatory site meeting that was required prior to submission. But many of the change orders and the changes that are reflected within the document would not be obvious to a site inspection. These are items that get incurred when you start to order and understand the supply chain, when you open up walls and floors and excavate foundations that you would not observe from a site inspection. So these are real-time decisions that are made in order to keep a project moving forward. And the necessary approval processes are in effect to ensure that. And the contract documents speak specifically to how change orders are processed and approved.
So, understanding that and moving forward, because we have bigger projects we're going to have moving forward, is there anything that we would change with this process to eliminate?
No.
No? Okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you. And no one else had any questions, so we need a mover on this. Councillor Lee, thank you. We can get a vote on that. And it passes, thank you. Next item would be 4.4, and I'm going to turn that over to Councillor Bauer. When she requests, there we go.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Henry. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all in person today. I just had a couple of questions about the voting methods. I know this report focused more on the internet and phone service, but if you could please speak to the voter assistance centers and the use of them. I know nearly 2,000 voters visited them in the 2022 election, so I just want to make sure that they will still be considered for 2026, please.
So through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, yes, the intent is to follow the election process pretty closely in 2018 and 2022 that Ajax implemented, as it was very successful and is looked at as a municipal best practice across the province. So the VACs, or voter assistance centers, will definitely be implemented again. The intent right now is to mirror 2022, so we would use the three really robust VACs, one in each ward again. And then there are things called special VACs in some of our long-term care homes or retirement residences, and staff will continue to evaluate all of those different locations and ensure that we're not only adhering to the legislation, but also ensuring that there's a positive voting experience for all electors in Ajax.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear about the special voter assistance centers, because that was an area of feedback that we received, especially in our ward. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Those were my questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer, would you like to move this? Okay. So we have a mover. Any question? There's no more questions, right? Oh, there is a question. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's early, but have we secured a vendor? Did we secure our previous vendor for a few elections, or is it each year we need a new vendor?
So through you, Madam Chair, so no, we have not secured a vendor. The first step is actually receiving council approval for alternate voting methods. I can't secure a vendor until I know what methods we're planning to use for the election. And there is a lot of changes in a technology and voting landscape within 4 years. So we don't do multi-election contracts or anything like that with vendors. We will go and ensure that we're using a vendor that's the most appropriate and passes all of the security testing and stuff that we have in place for 2026, instead of just relying on what we had done in past elections.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right then, no more questions? Excellent. Councillor Bauer has moved that. Can we call that for a vote, please? All right, that is passed. And we have no new items. So we'll call upon the Deputy CAO, Nicole Cooper, for a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, no introductory remarks from me today. Jacqueline's going to be leading the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm in front of you today to look at our new customer service standards. So I'll start with a little bit of background for everybody. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, Ajax approved their customer service strategy with 3 main pillars being defining the experience, deploying tools, and elevating our service delivery. And one of the main sort of foundation pieces of this strategy is to really define the standards that we have in place for all interactions with customers. And one big part that I like to remind everybody of from standards is they're all customers, so whether they're internal or external. So these standards that you're reviewing today do apply to staff interacting with other staff members as well. And I think that's really important because it puts everybody on sort of an equal playing field and really ensures that everybody is aware of sort of where their priorities lay while they're going through all of the interactions with our customers. And then the other main part here is our current customer service standards were last updated in 2017. They have been in place since about 2008, so Ajax has had standards for quite some time. But updates are always required due to the introduction of new technologies, lots of our self-serve options, as well as changes in customer behavior and preferences, not only coming out of the pandemic, but also just with acceptance of technology and all of the integrations that we have across the town. So what you'll see in front of you today is 2 separate sets of standards, and what we've done is we've actually transitioned from our previous work instruction into these 2 separate standards. The first one will clearly define the standards for staff using all of our different communication channels, where the second one really addresses a variety of accessibility considerations, and having this separately allows staff to really have something that they can go to easily when they're in one of these instances where they need a little bit more guidance or understanding of how the town deals with different disabilities and things that they need to consider. This also allows for updates to be more fluid. So while the actual standards may not need to be updated, there may be new AODA legislation or things around that. So as I said, these apply to all employees. So whether you're full-time, part-time, casual, students, these standards are upheld. And it is our interactions with all customers, like I said. So it is staff interactions with you as members of council, along with employees and residents. But the standards are not applicable to members of council interactions with their constituents. So those are governed by both your code of conduct and your council constituent inquiry request work instruction. I did just want to highlight the town has a vast array of communication channels. So the standards that you have in front of you today, they touch on all of them, whether it be telephone, in-person, email, our variety of corporate communication tools, and our written communications. Although they are used less frequently, we do still have standards surrounding mail and fax. And the reason that we include all of these channels specifically is it really helps guide staff in all of their different interactions. So you'll notice that there's templates and examples and different expectations that are set for each of these. They're not all the same, which I think is very important, but it does allow staff to sort of have a one-stop shop to know how to deal and how to answer these questions. So these were developed and modernized in a variety of ways. So first we have our customer experience team. This is a corporate committee comprised of staff from all of the different departments, and they really are subject matter experts in the customer interactions that they deal with every day. And these are our champions within the town. So once these are approved, these will be some of the team members in Ajax who we rely on to sort of implement these within their different departments, and also provide us with feedback as they're implemented so that we can mold and change the standards if they're just not working for different departments. We also went through a municipal benchmarking exercise, so we ensured that we looked at a lot of comparator municipalities, saw what some of their standards were, what worked with them, what didn't work for them, and did a lot of lessons learned. And then also innovation. Ajax is known for being innovative and sort of on the front edge for a lot of different standards and policy creation. So we continue to have that mindset and ensure that we are looking into the future of customer interactions and not just our current interactions today. So some of our next steps will be internal training. So both retraining our current staff members who have obviously received customer service training when they joined the town, and also redeveloping our new hire training. So the training that they'll receive on these standards. The second part is to continue our customer service strategy implementation. So as you're aware, we're currently in the implementation phase. So these standards will really build the basis for a lot of the decisions that we have over the next year or 2 years. The main one being our customer relationship management system, our CRM. This procurement is underway and it's expected to come to council probably in March for award. And this is really going to drive a lot of our customer service strategy decisions over the next year or two. This is gonna really put into our hands a lot of data and a lot of interesting interaction, sort of things that we can take back and implement into our policies and sort of our day-to-day. And I think that's it. Yeah. Any questions?
We have a few questions here. So first up is Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It's good to see that we're always trying to improve. For the CRM, we're hoping to award it in March. How long do we foresee it taking to implement within the town wide?
I think it's about a year from implementation, but I'll look to Nicole if she wants to add anything there.
Thank you. We're currently just in the negotiation phase, so we're refining those details, but it's looking like it'll be between 9 and 12 months.
Okay. So, being on the receiving end of customer complaints, and I've spoken to CEO Baker about this, some of my biggest concerns is when there's no follow-up. A customer or a constituent will complain about whatever, snow clearing, and our staff say, we'll get back to you with this, and then we get a follow-up 6 to 8 months after saying, I didn't hear back. And so I think that, do we think the CRM will then manage that component of it where we will be able to see where the complaint went and who's responsible for that afterwards?
Absolutely, yeah. So through you, Madam Chair, the CRM will have better tracking of some of that data and be able to basically assign it to a customer service representative or so. So you'll be able to see sort of where it's left off and where it's standing. And as we go through and develop the CRM, there's a lot of different customization that we can apply. And we'll definitely be looking at things like overdue notices or how long something is taking as part of that customization, but that'll come through the implementation of the CRM.
I know there's a cost to this, but has the town ever considered doing customer service training? I've worked in sales with Rogers and Microsoft, and both of them hired external. I think we brought in the people from Disney, for example, because they were the benchmark for customer service. Have we ever examined the cost of that and as a means of kind of setting a standard across the board for our town representatives to use from a philosophy standpoint?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, we do hold an annual customer experience event for staff. It was very successful in 2024. We had an external presenter come in and provide a lot of relevant advice for staff on how to deal with specific sets of customers. So we went through sort of a user story base. And that type of training is always ongoing. So we plan to have that event pretty much annually to have that hands-on service. I'm not aware of any sort of larger external customer service training, but we do always make sure that we're providing up-to-date training.
And my last question is, do we track customer satisfaction statistics? I think we do an annual survey, but if I go to finance, had an interaction for my property taxes, for example, will I get a survey afterwards being like, how did you rank my service? Because I see how all these other companies seem to kind of follow that procedure.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, we do currently have different feedback opportunities. They're not automatic in the sense where they're sent to you after an interaction, but there are things listed at all of our sort of counters where you can provide feedback. There's a QR code, I believe, that brings you to a website, and there's also hard copy forms. But part of the CRM that we are looking at is what are the options for sort of that automation that you're talking about.
Okay, those are great answers. I appreciate all the work we're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your report. In my previous life, in a real job, I was a customer service manager, so looked after many, many departments and trained many, many people. So customer service is part of my DNA. Do we, I've never really called into our customer service department for anything, but do we have an option, or does it say ahead of time, where the call will be recorded for training purposes?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe that we currently record any calls. I can be corrected if I'm wrong with that, but.
No, that's correct. We do not currently, but actually, Councillor Crawford, you've raised this at a previous meeting, and I thought it was a very good idea and a good practice. So it is sort of in scope as something we're looking at as part of the customer service strategy. So rest assured, it's on my radar. I remember you bringing it up, and I very much like the idea.
Thank you. So customer service training should be done annually. Because you get too kind of stuck in your way, and you need to learn every day. Because I think particularly in this kind of industry, because it's a service industry, there's an expectation that may be realistic or may not be realistic when somebody is phoning in. So they're better to be, the worst answer would be call your counselor. So I hope that isn't one of the answers in one of the check boxes, although they will anyway. So I absolutely agree that a yearly training should be done. What can the customer expect after we implement this new training? What
Yes.
differences?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, some of the timelines have changed, mostly in the favor of the customer. So just with the presence of technology and all of the information available, the biggest change will be internally, we'll be redoing training. And I think people will see that right on the front line. So they'll probably see that this is more top of mind, because as you said, it's something that you use every day, and it really does need that touch point often. And I think one of my big philosophies is empowering the customer themselves, right? So instead of just answering the question, maybe show them where you got that answer as well. And that's one of the big things in our standards, is empowering people for all of our different corporate communication channels. We have a fantastic corporate communications team that puts out top quality content, and ensuring that they know that they can find some of this themselves. They don't need to always wait for answers. Showing them where maybe meetings are housed on YouTube, showing them all of our self-serve options, and that'll really be the biggest change, is empowering the customers how to answer some of their own questions themselves, and obviously still coming to our customer service if they need anything.
And I'm assuming de-escalation is part of that training?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, there is opportunities in the standards on how to deal with some of our customers, and then also the avenues that the customer has if they're not okay with sort of the answers or the resolution that we provided them.
Has there ever been any thought process for new counselors and for old counselors to have training on de-escalation?
Yeah,
Because I think we did something, but I thought it was media this year. I didn't think it was media training, wasn't it? Yeah.
So through you, Madam Chair, I have not been here for an onboarding in Ajax yet, but 100% we can always look at different training opportunities for council, even throughout their term. If this is something that council wants to be trained on, we can definitely look at opportunities for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Henry. Thank you so much for the presentation and the report. Very interesting and greatly needed. So I did have a couple of questions, just picking up where Regional Councillor Crawford stated about call your counselor. So, and I do see that our council interactions are not applicable for this standard because we have our own process, procedure, etc. So I'm wondering how closely are those two standards compared with each other? And is it the intent that a resident would reach out to customer service and are either satisfied with the response or not? And then if they are not, they come to us. So how beneficial, or what can you comment on having two separate standards?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, I think the two separate standards are quite important because the staff interactions with customers are quite different than from what you would experience as a counselor. I have not gone side by side on them, so we can if that's something that council would like to know the differences in. But the main point would be that council really has to determine their own interactions with customers, and some of it might be pushed off to staff where you then connect us with a resident who has a question, and that would then kick in our customer service standards, as we've now heard from one of our customers. But your interactions are really governed separately. You're not employees of the town per se, right? So those types of differences are really necessary for you to have a separate sort of interaction. And the call your counselor comment, I think our staff, especially our senior staff, are very comfortable in knowing when it's a decision or something they can comment on and when it might be a political or a policy decision that would have to come from council before staff could act on it.
Okay, thank you very much. I also have not gone side by side, so I will also be doing that. Thank you. And I did have a couple specific questions regarding the accessible customer service standard, and I'll just ask those now. One was section 4.6.3 regarding service animals and the requirement to have documentation. So what is the recourse, or what happens if, for whatever reason, a resident does not have that documentation?
So through you, Madam Chair, it honestly depends on the type of service that they're coming in for. So staff will always do their best to sort of consult with the customer, figure out what they're here for, answer the questions best that they can. If it's a very short interaction, I'll give an example of paying your taxes at the counter or coming to ask sort of something of one of our customer service representatives. We will sort of be cognizant of who else is in the hallways and ensure that we can provide that customer service. If it's something that's more of a weekly thing where maybe they've signed up for programming that they're going to attend every Wednesday, we would have a conversation with that resident and ensure that that proper documentation is provided, as it will be something that they're bringing the animal to constantly. So it really is something that staff have to be comfortable with going back and forth on and deciding when we need to sort of provide another avenue or when we can just have a quick interaction and ensure everybody's well-being and safety.
Perfect, thank you for that answer. And then the other question was regarding 4.7.2 for support persons. And there was comment about if there are fees required for the attendance to certain events. Mm-hmm. And are we charging the resident plus the support person? And so double charging someone, which may, could be unfair if a person cannot attend with a disability without their support person.
Right, so through you, Madam Chair, again, I did receive some information from Recreation on this, so I'll relay that information, and you're welcome to step in if there's anything I missed. So outside support workers are admitted free as long as they're there to fully support the individual. So the example I'll give is if they're at one of our fitness centers and the individual comes in with them to assist them with a workout maybe in the gym, that's free of charge for the outside worker. The difference would be if the worker who was assisting them left them alone to do their own workout per se, they would then be expected to pay their own fee as they're using the services as an individual themselves and no longer as the support worker. So again, it's the frontline staff who have those conversations and make those determinations.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much for those answers. Those were my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate what Regional Councillor Crawford said. Mm-hmm. And the worth of this, in my opinion, to members of council, when we hear all of it, actually. When you get this job, you're kind of on your own, right? You kind of make your way through and you figure out ways of dealing with somebody. But I describe myself as a customer service agent often, not trying to be funny. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And we did get media training, but there's no but. I'm glad we got media training. But the but would be this is so much more relevant dealing with. So I'd like to somehow integrate this into our training, either moving forward or, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Council? Seeing none, can I, I guess I need to move her on this, do I? No. Receive? Yeah, so can I get a vote on this? Oh, you're gonna move it? Okay. Okay. Counselor Tyler Moore will be put on for motion to receive, I guess. And can we call a vote? And that passes, excellent. So now we are going to go into our closed session of in camera here. And I need a mover for the motion. I'm gonna ask Counselor Dyes, you haven't signaled for anything. Would you like to be on this? Excellent. So moved by Counselor Dyes that the committee convene to a closed session pursuant to section 2392A of the Municipal Act 2021 as amendment to disclose the securities of the property of the municipality or local board. Goes in now? We can get a vote on that, please? Okay, so can I get a mover for CS 2025-04 cybersecurity strategy? Counselor Bauer. Move that, and I can now call for a vote, please. Did that pass? Yes, that passed. Excellent, thank you. And can I get a mover to adjourn the meeting? And I'm going to go with Counselor Moran. Tyler Moran. And can I get a vote, please? Thank you. And that is an adjournment for this meeting. Have a good day, everyone.